Hello soulmates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we'll be recreating this bubble gown in the middle. As you can see that the inspiration is a long gown, but I recreated mine in a short version. It is still the same process. So if this is something you're interested in, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and without wasting much time, let's get right into the video. Welcome back guys. So for this tutorial you will need your Ankara fabric. If you are making a short gown, you will need just 2 yards of the fabric, but if you are making a long one, you will need about 3 to 4 yards of your fabric depending on how long you want the long gown to be. You will need a plain fabric, either a satin or a crepe. Then you will need this tassel, about 5 of them. So guys, I'm making a short version of the bubu. So I folded my 2 yards of fabric into 4. Then I'm measuring my shoulder divided by 4. Then the remaining part of my fabric, that is what I'll use for my sleeve. So I have extra 8 inches there, so I'll just measure it like that. Then I'll go down by 1.5 inches at the tip here. Then I'll slant it inward just to make a slope at this area. So now it's time to measure my sleeve opening depending on how wide you want your sleeve opening to be. So I'm using 10" for my sleeve opening, but I'll be adding my sewing allowance at the upper part and at the lower part together with it. So that's 11.5. That is half inch for the joining at the shoulder area, then 1" for the joining at the side. So altogether I'm measuring 11.5. So now I'm measuring my bust length here, and my bust length is 11 inches with the half-inch sewing allowance. Then I will measure my bust divided by 4. Then I will add my ease allowance and my sewing allowance. If you have enough space or you want your bubble to be very wide, you can add as much ease allowance as you want. But for me, I will be adding about 3.5 inches to this for my ease allowance and my sewing allowance. So my sewing allowance is 1 inch and my ease allowance is 2.5 inches. So everything I have here, I'll just keep transferring it and marking it all the way down to the length of my gown. Take note, we've not measured the length of our gown yet, so we'll measure that when we are done with this. Please ensure that this measurement you are transferring will accommodate your hip measurements with some ease allowance. So if you notice it will not accommodate your hip measurements with ease allowance, please you can increase it, because it's a bubu, it's not a fitted gown. So now after you connect the points at this area here, you just blend it in like this. Then the next thing we'll be doing is to measure our gown length. So for me, I'm making a short gown, so I'll just measure my desired length, then I will add my hemming allowance to it. If you are making the long version of this gown, you know that the folding will not be like this, it will be the other way around. I hope you understand, because this length cannot accommodate a long length, so you will fold it the other way around. That's why I said you will need about 3 to 4 inches depending on your desired length. So now you go ahead and just connect every point. Then the next thing we'll be doing now is to just cut this out. So now let's measure the neckline for the back. So we'll be measuring the neckline for the back on both the front and the back bodies. So I'm using 3.5 inches by 2 inches. So 3.5 inches by 2 inches, that will be for the back, but we are cutting both the front and the back together. So when we are done, we will remove the back, then we work on the neckline for the front. So this is 3.5 by 2 inches, then you just connect it. So now just remove one of these, which will be for the back, then the remaining one left is for the front. So now for the front, we'll be working on the neckline, because the neckline is a V neckline, so we have to reshape the neckline. So for the V neckline, I'll be using 7.5 inches deep. So depending on how deep you want your neckline to be, so just measure the length, but I'm using 7.5 inches. Then I'll just blend this in. I'll blend this in into this part here. So this is what we have. Then I'll just cut it out. So this is what we have. So this is the neckline. If it is not deep enough, you can just go ahead and trim it. So now the next thing I want to do now is to locate where my plain fabric will be starting from. So what I did was to just measure 10 inches below the neckline. You know that sharp neckline, that V neckline. So I measure 10 inches, then I just roll this line. So I'll go ahead now and place it on my plain material. So me, I'm using a satin for this. Then I'll just place it on it like this. Then I'll cut it from that line downward. So that's what I will cut. So for this plain fabric, you will need just 1 yard of your fabric. So 1 yard is enough for this plain fabric. So I'm trying to trim out the sides, and this is what we have. So the next thing now is to draw the curve. So what I did was to measure 10 inches downward at this part. So I measured 10 inches, then I just connected it like this. If you want it to be a very sharp V, you can go ahead and do that, but I just want mine to be a little bit curved at this part. So what I did on that fabric, I'll do it here. So I will also measure 10 inches downward like this, then I will connect it upward. I'll just connect it like this, then that is it. So I'll go ahead and cut out the parts that I don't want. The wanted part, I'll just cut it out like this. Then this is what we have. So now I'll go ahead and fold 1/2 inch in at this part, then I will iron it downward. So after ironing, I went ahead to place the plain fabric on the Ankara fabric. Then I'll just be pinning it down so that when I'm sewing it does not move. So I'll go ahead and just pin. Then after pinning, I'll go ahead and just sew at the tip. I'll go ahead and sew it at the tip, very close to the tip. So that's what I will do. I'll go ahead and hem the neckline also, and this is what we have. So this is what we have for this neckline. I use a bias tape to hem it, but you know that this is a V neckline, so you have to slash open the bias at that pointed edge so that it can turn out well. So now I will join the shoulder together for the front and for the back. I'll go ahead and join the shoulder with just 1/2 inch. Then after joining, I will go ahead and join the sides also with 1 inch. That's the allowance we added. Then I've went ahead to also hem the lower part of this gown. So to place this tassel, what I did was to locate the midpoint first. So since there are 5, 1 will be at the midpoint, then 2 will be by both sides. So I've located the midpoint here. So 1 will be here. Then what I did was to measure 6 inches, or you can just divide this line here. You can divide one side into 3, another side into 3. So you just place 2 in between them. I hope you understand. So the spaces in between these 2 must be equal. It must be equal. So when I measured, I have about 6 inches for me, but for you it may not be 6 inches. So just make sure you divide the lines, we divide the space, and make sure they are equal. That will be the beauty of this. Make sure it is equal. So make sure all the tassels, they are equal. The spaces between them are equal. So after that, you go ahead and just fix this. I'll be showing you how I fixed mine. So you fix it with a needle and thread. So you need a needle and thread to fix this. But before fixing, I went ahead to iron, because when I fix this, to iron will be a problem for me. So let me just fix it. Let me just iron first, then I'll just fix it on it. So since I've marked where it will be, so I'm fixing the first one here. So just go ahead and just fix, and make sure it is relaxed when you are fixing. Make sure the tassel is relaxed. So after fixing this, this is what it looks like. As you can see, it is falling downward like this. So I'll go ahead and fix the remaining one, and this is what I have. This is what it looks like. So thank you so much for watching. If you haven't liked this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.